7:06. So why don't we get going? All right. Okay. So I'll call the meeting to order. Before we get started, let's introduce everyone on this meeting. I'm Sandy Brock. When I call your name, please confirm that you can hear me and verify that you are present. I'm going to start with Commissioners Travis,
I'm here.
Jonathan,
Present.
and Amira.
Present.
Thank you. And I don't believe Bill is on yet. I did not see him, so he's not present. Go to staff, Leah
In here.
and Jan.
Present.
Thank you very much. This open meeting of the Conservation Commission is being conducted remotely via Zoom pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order, as most recently extended on March 28th, 2025. Access information for the public has been provided on the town website. This meeting is being recorded. Please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. This is done on the phone by pressing *6. As chair, I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. Please note that you will not have sharing privileges, but staff can display any visuals per your cue. During periods of public comment, participants must use raise hand icon in the Zoom menu bar to indicate they would like to speak. This is done on the phone by pressing *9 and then *6 to unmute when you are called upon. Participants who raise their hand will be recognized one at a time and will be promoted to speak. Finally, each vote taken will be conducted by a roll call vote. As a reminder, the Commission is concerned with state and town wetlands and stormwater regulations. Concerns outside this purview need to be addressed by the appropriate boards. For example, road conditions must be addressed with Select Board, and traffic concerns must be addressed with Planning Board. Okay. So first meeting's at 7:10, which is right around the corner. Do we have anything that we want to do prior to that?
You can do any of the 5 sets of minutes.
Okay, so I did go through them. And there's there's 2 of them that I had comments on. It has to do with the wording used for emergency orders. They're using the word ratify. That's not a word that I see typically associated with approvals. It's usually you ratify, something to do with legislation, or maybe ratify, some sort of other type of agreement. Never seen it used
So
for.
isn't
Yeah.
that what we say when there's something that I issue, but you guys have to back me up on it?
That's. I wasn't sure. It just seemed
Yeah.
different to me.
An enforcement order or an emergency certification, if I sent one out, I can sign it, I can issue it, but it has to
Right.
then come before you guys to ratify it and put your signatures on it.
Okay. I was just kind of, because it wasn't because I was reading them, and there's a couple other there's only one other comment that I have. And it has to do with how the vote was written. Everything else, I mean, they were um, much more clear this time and so forth. So there wasn't a whole lot of them, and it was really just the word ratify. And then, and again, I just don't remember using it for this. And you may be right, and you have done it before. I just didn't remember it. And then the only other one is I'd have to pull it up, and it had just to do with how it said that I voted yes, but it didn't really say everyone else voted. It was just a little bit. It was.
Do you know what set and what hearing? Because if we can make that change in the background, could we contingent?
Yep. I should be able to pull it up.
Whatever I'm trying to say.
Yep.
Approve them with that as an edit we can make.
Right. Yeah, it was June 18th, 2024. And it was one that Travis recused himself as a butter. Then it says Chair Sandra Brock voted yes. The motion carried. It was like get rid of me voting and just say the motion carried 3-0 with 1 abstention. I think it's a really easy fix. And then everything else, and one other comment about wording, but that's just editorial. But the only other really one I had was the ratify one. I just don't remember seeing it. yeah, it's there. There's a couple of more editorial things, um, but that particular set of minutes are the only ones that really have any markups. I can send it to you if that's easier.
Yeah, can you just summarize briefly just for the record so that we're not just editing them in the background?
Sure, absolutely. So I'll do that real quick. So this is basically June 18th, 2024. It is the first hearing. It's RDA 42 McGill. And then just it says on the last line, and the second to last line, it says Chair Sandra Brock voted yes. I said strike that. And then the motion, I should add to the motion carried 3-0 with one abstention. That was it.
Right.
And then, just this is an editorial one and whether people agree with this. Under RDA for 24 Taft Mill Road, sufficient for this application process. It's how I edit things. I get rid of words. I don't think you need the word process. Then it's just back to the ratify things, which we just discussed. And that's it. That's it. So,
Okay.
and I can send you kind of the markups if you want them, but. And
Sure.
then the only other one, there was one other one that had ratify in it. And I didn't look back at old ones. I just don't remember having
I
the
mean, it
wording.
doesn't come up often, but that is the
Right.
word. I think it's right on the form. I'm trying to find
Okay.
it in the background.
All right. And that's absolutely fine. It seemed different because we approve things. I get this is a afterwards type of thing, but I just
Yeah.
haven't used that word before. That's all.
So I know you said it was the emergency certification.
Right.
I'm finding it on an enforcement order has language on it that says, in a situation regarding, in a situation regarding immediate action, an enforcement order may be signed by a single member or agent of the commission and ratified by majority
Okay.
of the members at the next scheduled meeting of the commission. That's on an enforcement order, but I know the two work the same way.
And I just, for whatever reason, don't remember that wording. So, and I was just looking at it a little bit closer um, as these got updated, and that was really the only things I saw.
Okay.
So I don't know if anyone else has any other comments or, um, if not, this is when I get to because we're past 7:10. The first project in front of us is Tufts University, so I will be recusing myself as a shareholder in my company, and we do a lot of work for Tufts. That makes it a conflict of interest. So anyone
Well,
else is
Can I cut you off for one
sure.
second? Sorry. Are we making a motion on the minutes first, or are we coming back to that later?
We can make it now because I don't have anything else to add. If no one else has either. Okay, so do I have a motion for the meeting minutes to be approved as discussed for June 18th, July 16th, August 13th, November 26th, 2024, and March 4th, 2025?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do a roll call vote. Jonathan, you're on my screen, so you get to go first.
Yes.
Mira.
I'm going to abstain.
All right, very good. And Travis.
Yes.
And I am also a yes. The motion carries with one abstention. Okay. All right.
So Sandy,
Now- Yep.
you started bringing up something about, so I don't directly work with Tufts, but my company works with Tufts in Medford and a decent amount. So I'm not sure if I'm in the same boat where I have to, my company works all over New England and the East Coast, but I don't personally work with Tufts, but just wanted to flag that as I don't
Right.
want to participate unless that's kosher. I mean,
So I'll give you my understanding of the ethics law based on having looked it up several times and having different occasions. So whenever there is a economic relationship, meaning, um, like in my case, the company I work for receives money from Tufts on a regular basis. The reason why it's a conflict for me is because I'm a part owner of that company. So if you're an employee, you don't receive that same um, financial
we're-
benefit.
But we're an ESOP, so indirectly I get, we take
Yeah.
all the different, so my company is an ESOP company.
Okay.
Where we have a shared interest of, we work with Tufts.
Right.
We get paid as a general contractor, construction manager by Tufts. So,
Yeah.
um, not, I don't know if we're doing projects with the veterinary school, which I think this is specific to, but obviously Tufts in Medford,
Right,
we've done
yeah.
work in the past. I believe we're still currently pursuing.
It would, yeah, it would be a current and stuff like that. And again, it's also the individual. Like I a lot of time will disclose something
Mhm.
just because I work with a lot of people in the industry. So I might say, hey, I work with this particular wetland scientist, but we don't have any financial relationship. I'll disclose that. That's a disclosure. And I usually ask the applicant if they have an issue with it, just to make sure that, it's part of the record. In this particular case, I know there's a direct issue here because I'm part of the ownership of the company I work for. And based on that structure of that S corp, I receive direct benefits from that. I also do a lot of work directly with Tufts, and we have master service agreements. So there's no question. For me, it's not just disclosing. For me, it's a clear conflict of interest. So as you've seen me before, I've recused myself. So that's what I'll do tonight. For you, Jonathan, it's a little bit different. I don't know the legalities of what the ESOP means. Understand what an ESOP is, but um, as far as the ethics, I don't know. I just don't know enough about that to know that. So, a couple different ways you can do it is that you can disclose that. You can ask the applicant if there's any issues with that. If you, and it's also goes to you, however you feel. And if you're not comfortable, recuse yourself. Um,
I'm gonna
know.
recuse myself.
Okay, that's fine.
I know we've worked many, many years in the past with Tufts, but
Yep.
something that recently I know, again, not me directly, but the company I work for
Yep.
and part of. So,
Yep. It's the ownership part that brings the conflict into being really a conflict. It's financially based. So for me, that's a pretty straightforward.
one of the like 1,500 owners of
I know. And like I said, as I said, from an ESOP perspective, I don't know. I don't know the legality. That's something I would leave up to you. So
So,
so
Leah,
yep.
maybe just for tonight, I'm probably going to recuse myself in the same state that Sandy is. And again, I understand there's different situation here, but I don't know if that's a question that we can ask to town council or to.
You typically can reach out to the ethics committee or the ethics. I forget. It's online and you can look it up, but you can also ask questions. And I'm sure it's also something that you can ask town council. But typically, the state's pretty um, straightforward about how it defines conflict of interest. So you can find that out. And and it would be direct question on the ESOP whether how that. I don't know. I have no idea.
That I wouldn't know. If we weren't an ESOP company, then it probably, and if I wasn't directly dealing with it, then I feel like I'd be in the safe, but
Right.
because I don't know. So I
Yep.
prefer to err on the safe side, especially because we do work now regularly with Tufts, especially in the last couple months. I think we're doing projects with Tufts. So.
Yeah. And again, it's yeah, I go to how you feel and your comfort level. It's, I think it's absolutely fine. And then to find out more later on and so forth.
If I recuse myself in this instance, Leah or Sandy, and then this happens to come back for the next meeting, and then I can choose not to recuse myself because it's clarified, does that not work? Because now once I'm out, I stay out as part
Yes.
of this process.
Once you recuse yourself, because that means, what I've been always told, if I recuse myself, I'm going to get up and leave. I am not going to listen to it, you know? So that means I have not participated in the hearing. So,
With two, how does that work? Because there's a
so
quorum, but only two are able to
right.
move.
So and again, this is my understanding is that we have a quorum tonight. We're 4 out of 5. There's no issue. Typically what I'll do is ask the applicant, because 2 people are recusing themselves, you have 2 people voting on it. So, so we can still take a vote. It just, if it happens to be one person for and one against, that creates a different kind of situation. Now we
Sure.
don't have one of our members here. So, if that member comes next time and he follows, I'm going to blank on the
Mullen rule.
thank you
Yeah.
very much. If they do the Mullen rule, then they can join in that process. So,
Okay.
but my understanding there is a quorum, so we can go ahead. I will defer to the applicant on that too.
I actually have a couple of questions myself.
Okay.
One would be, if Jonathan recused tonight and then found out from the ethics that he could participate, can he Mullen back in?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I don't
then-
know.
So I thought that you need a majority of those present to take action. So with us sitting at 4,
Yep.
it's like 2 is like a tie.
Right.
So how does that work?
Yeah, so I've been told by different people that know more than I do is that as long as you have a quorum to start, you can still have a vote. I always defer to the applicant whether they're comfortable with it.
Okay.
Just so since we're having this conversation and Wayne is on the line, there's a couple of things that we can do. I would ask you if, what your comfort level is in the fact that you're looking at 2 people to accuse themselves. Because there's other ways around. There are times when multiple members might have to recuse themselves, and there's ways around that. And I just don't know them. I mean, we've only had one person recuse at a time. So I don't know, Wayne, if you have any opinion or your comfort level of proceeding with only 2 commissioners.
So I do appreciate the positions you folks are in, Madam Chair. You know how much I appreciate your input on projects here in town, as do Leah and Jan. But I can appreciate where you're coming from being a shareholder. And Jonathan, I look at your position, and I tend to think the way you do. I tend to think conservatively, and I would rather err on the side of caution than not. Does that help me? I don't think so. For the moment, I don't think it does. However, Leah brought up an interesting point, and her point was about recusing himself. And then having some dialogue, and Madam Chair, you had mentioned dialogue with the Ethics Commission, which I've done before, because of the same situation, sitting on a board and having a conflict. And I think as part of that dialogue, through you, Madam Chair, as Jonathan speaks to them, we understand that he's recusing himself on the basis of the ESOP situation of being ownership. And, it's not really clear at this point until the Ethics Commission weighs in as to whether or not he can participate. To Leah's comment about whether or not he can Mullen back into this based on that, I think, if Jonathan could ask the Ethics Commission, so based on this situation, I've recused myself from the meeting with the understanding that I may have a conflict of interest, thinking conservatively. If the Ethics Commission then says, there wouldn't be a conflict of interest, then I guess the follow-up question would be, well, now that I've recused myself, can I unrecuse myself and participate in the project? Provided that I get up to speed with the Mullins rules, and there's a document as well that needs signing on that front as well.
Right.
So-
Yeah. We do that on a routine basis when folks miss, we have
Yep.
that process down. So,
I have.
So with that, go ahead.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. I just had another idea. And this would be your choice, Wayne, but what if we just open and continue and there's no
That was-
testimony?
that was going to be my next suggestion, to try to sort this out so you're in a better position.
Okay, and so my next question, as, so Madam Chair, we've been working with Jan and Leah, and I think and they're incredible. You're fortunate to have them. This commission is. And we're looking for an expedited process here because of the summer schedule where they need to do work during the summer. So my question is in terms of your meeting agenda, so this is the first, would you folks be meeting again on the 15th?
Yes.
And then, so I'm thinking that we may need 2 hearings for this. So after the 15th, the next one would be in the beginning of May, correct? But you have town meeting?
May 6th.
May 6th is town meeting, correct?
Is it? I know it's
believe
it's
it
supposed
may-
to be one of our meetings. Let me look at that in the background.
Because what I'd like to do is be able, and I totally respect the positions you folks are in. I'd rather, like I said, proceed with caution.
Yeah. And again, in kind of something like this, again, Leah will look that up, because we usually have these dates. That's why we do the whole calendar for the whole year of meetings, because we try to see when holidays are and other things and so forth.
Sure.
So,
It says the
Um,
second Monday of May, so that'd be the 12th.
Right,
okay. So we're a week before then, right? The
right.
6th? Okay.
Yeah.
So we don't conflict with that.
Oh, so town meeting's on the 12th?
Correct.
Oh. And you folks meet on the 6th?
Yes.
And then the issuance, so let's assume that everything's resolved and that an order of conditions is drafted in, and I'm just kind of looking at construction timeframes, targeting that window from mid-May to early to mid-August. In terms of, so if you folks were to, let's say, close on the 6th, an order of conditions or your decision would be rendered. If there was an order of conditions rendered, would that be issued at the next meeting or on the 6th? Is that
That's-
something we could?
Staff gets it to you within 21 days.
Yeah. So I can tell you, typically, I'll tell you the process. We're not going to promise something other than what's in the regulatory requirements. Is that staff will, prepare the order of conditions, and typically what we do is we sign everything online through I forget the program. So, So-
You signed.
DocuSign. So we take care of that. We don't have to come in and sign anything
Okay.
afterwards. We do. So that part is, I think the only thing is that I don't want to promise something depending upon what comes up for staff.
Understood.
But yeah, we
Hmm.
don't have to wait till the next meeting or anything like that. It's usually taken
Okay.
care of. And so-
Okay, and then thank you, Madam Chair. So, and then that obviously there's the 10-day appeal period for that. For your stormwater and wetlands permit bylaws, what is the appeal period on those? Is that a 20-day appeal period?
I'm gonna, unfortunately, Leah, I know I've
60.
read, it's 60. Really?
60 days?
Yeah, you can always
Bylaw.
proceed at your own risk, but it
Yeah.
is 60.
Wow, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I won't relay that to the client.
Yeah, and I don't know if we've ever gotten an appeal through the bylaw, but that's
Yeah.
just history. I can't tell you for sure anything else like that. So
Yeah, okay. Well, I think given and your member, that commission member who's not available this evening, is it anticipated that member would be here for the next meeting?
we will reach
Or
out to
is
him.
that
See,
a-
yeah, we'll reach out to him and see what's going on because he's fairly new. So it's just a matter of checking in
Okay.
with him and so forth.
Okay.
So,
So again, I've been in the position, Madam Chair, both you and Jonathan, fully appreciate it. And, there are ethics and there's a reason for them. There's ethics, regulations and laws. So we follow them. And I do appreciate the position you're in. And I would request a continuance.
So
How does
let's.
that work? Delay the opening? What is the?
No, I'll read it in and I
Yeah.
will mention that I'm recusing and then you can ask for the continuance and then we could have people and then Jonathan, you don't have to recuse yourself because we already know that it's going to move forward. And I would just, that's up to you though. How do you feel about that? But we can read it in. We're on the schedule, so we have to read it in.
I have,
So it's a date and time. Go ahead.
hi, I have a question. So
Yes.
can we ask questions about the project now, or should we wait until the next?
We should wait. So if we open it and the applicant is asking for a continuance, we do not take any
Yep.
testimony.
Okay.
So, because that would complicate things as far as Jonathan goes and stuff.
It only gets worse.
Yeah. So, for me, there's no question. I have to do it. I know the ethics well enough to know that there's not that many times I have to totally recuse myself. Usually I'm doing disclosures. So,
So would it be an ask, Madam Chair, to ask that you give up your shares?
I actually passed the actual age for it, but that's a whole nother discussion. On a different-
I know how that is. Yeah.
so that's a whole nother different discussion and stuff. So,
Okay.
yeah. So I think that. So Jonathan, are you comfortable if we just open it up and continue it, and then you can find out separately whether it's through Lear and our town council or just go directly to the ethics board or ethics. I forget what they're called, but
I mean, sure. If we're going to open it and continue it and
Yep.
I'm not listening to any testimony
Nope.
or any detail or anything
Yep.
like that, then we're just continuing this to a future date. And then again, I'll check in. I don't know if Leah, if there's and
Yeah.
I've taken the ethics thing for 5 years or whatever in a row. So I'm sure there's an email somewhere buried in my
We'll
email.
put you in touch.
If you
Yeah.
could, that'd be good.
Yeah.
And then I can present the situation just so I just don't want to step on any toes. I don't want to upset
Right.
anyone in my company or cause a conflict of interest at all. So
Jonathan, if I could, as you're speaking with the ethics, this is a good one. This is a good one to have on that ethics thing that we have to take every year.
be a good.
This would be a good situation.
Yeah, there's a lot of companies out there that have gone ESOP or have some type of, system like that. So I may not own the company, but I own a very small portion of the company. And
You own enough. Yeah.
Yep. It's anything.
like owning a share or something, well, I have a bunch of shares, but it's, I've been there for 15 years. So that's
Yep.
the concern.
Yep.
So I'm fine with opening it. And if the applicant's looking for a continuance, then voting on the continuance and then checking in. Sorry to make it complicated, but I just figured I'd flag it because I know I'm hearing constantly about Tufts projects out of our
Yeah,
office
and-
in Massachusetts.
And before we move on, anytime I do a project, I always sniff out, is there any way that somebody can appeal it? And I think this would be an example where somebody could appeal it.
Right. So we're
they
trying to
could question it. Yeah, I agree.
Don't wanna
So-
invite that.
Yeah, so I will say there are 2 attendees online here. And so hopefully if you do have any questions, we're going to kind of go through this and you've heard this discussion on just the circumstances of who needs to recuse and not recuse. And it has an impact on the number of members, commission members that can actually vote and so forth. If you have any questions about that, please feel free to raise your hand and ask them. Otherwise, we're not going to be discussing this project tonight. However, it will get postponed or get continued until the next Conservation Commission hearing 2 weeks from now. But if you do have a particular question, please ask. And if we can give you any more information on why this is happening, we will. But we're not going to discuss any of the merits of this application at this point. It will be continued. So if you do happen to have a question, please feel free to raise your hand and ask it. Otherwise, we're going to open the hearing, and then we're going to, based on this conversation, the applicant will request a continuance, and that's what we're going to be doing. So if you do, go and raise your hand. Otherwise, you get to watch us open the hearing, and we'll walk towards doing a continuance. So I will do that since it's past 7:10. Pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, the Grafton Stormwater Management Bylaw, the Grafton Wetlands Protection Bylaw, the Conservation Commission will hold public hearing to act upon a notice of intent application for Grafton Stormwater Bylaw permit, an application for Grafton Wetlands Bylaw permit for the construction of a parking lot at 200 Westboro Road in Grafton. I will now that this is open, I'll defer it. I'll just kind of switch to the applicant if they have anything to request.
Madam Chair, thank you very much. Wayne Bellick, Land Design Collaborative, looking to request a continuance to your agenda on April 15th.
Okay, so I am going to ask for a motion of continuance, and then we can go through that vote, and I will be abstaining at that point. So
I'll move to continue the hearing to April 15th.
do I have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second for continuance. We'll do a roll call vote. Amira, you're on the screen. You get to go first.
Got it. Yes, I vote
Thank you.
to continue.
And Travis? Yep, Travis.
Yes.
Jonathan?
Just to be clear, I can vote on this, but we don't want to, so I don't have to. If I abstain, then sorry, to connect.
No, if you abstain from this vote only.
Okay, so I'll abstain.
And I am also going to abstain, which means the motion carries 2-0 to 2 abstentions.
Sounds great.
How is that,
Thank
Leah? Is that okay that we did it that way?
As far as I know.
Okay. We're trying to do the right thing, right? And thank you, Wayne, for being
Thank you for your patience.
understanding in your patience and so forth. And we'll
Fully
try to get this
understand.
worked out.
So before we go, if you could have your four-legged friend with you, or actually, he can't be at the next one. So I could have my four-legged friend with me. So if someone wants to bring a four-legged friend with them.
I see we
dear
got one
Lord.
there. I have
Oh,
to say
adorable.
it's sad news, but I have to say my four-legged friend is no longer with me and has gone on to a
Oh.
better place. It's
Oh,
it's
sorry.
the bad part of being a pet owner. It was
Yeah.
very sudden and went through the whole vet thing and stuff. It is, yeah, it's tough. It's, used to be on a lot of Zoom meetings and
Yeah.
team meetings. And I've had several people ask, "Hey, where's Max?"
Yeah,
Unfortunately,
it's
it is what it is.
it is.
It's the tough
I-
part
yeah.
of, tough
It
part of
is.
it. So.
They bring you so much joy. And Amara, thank you for showing us your friend. It's I had a buddy of mine. I lost him May 1st on 2023, and
Yep.
I still miss him. He was the best. He would do these. He would sit up on my shoulder, and on occasion he would take a love bite of my ear, which was always a surprise, especially
Yep.
when you're doing a public presentation. So my condolences. They're the best.
Thank you.
No offense to people, but I'll take the four-legged friends to people any day.
I used to always just
What it
talk to him. Now I'm talking to myself, and I'm wondering if that's a positive sign. But we'll, until there's another four-legged friend, which I'm not rushing into. But
Yeah.
at this point, yeah, it's still fresh, but it's got to do the right thing. You got to be responsible. So
I agree.
All right.
I agree.
So,
Well,
fun
thank you,
fact,
everybody.
She also happens to be the mayor of Grafton.
there you
No
go.
kidding.
Yeah,
She's
she won.
adorable.
She won like the little town like Facebook.
Oh,
Like,
that's
there you
adorable.
go.
That's adorable.
Mayor.
There you go.
Now, That makes my day. Makes my day. Thank you, folks, very much, and
Yep.
I enjoy the dialogue tonight. I think it was very good. Very good.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care, folks. Have a good night.
You too. All right, Leah, I think that's all that we had on the agenda. Is there anything else that I'm missing?
I just had an update for you guys about UPS.
Oh, okay. Yes. I
Um,
did see that. I actually looked at the photos.
Yeah, so I'll have Jan pull that up while I get talking here. But UPS is underway. They're working on clearing, and erosion control is nearing the finish line. We've been out there, a big group of us. They also have their vernal pool protection plan in place. It's still technically in draft form. We're just working out a couple specifics for it, but they have a wetland scientist on board who's been monitoring the pools, checking for species, helping move them from one pool to another as needed. Art has reviewed that plan and signed off on it. We're just working on some final language before it's officially approved. What I wanted to bring to you guys' attention, if you see right in the center of the screen in the corner of the project, they did clear past their approved limit of work in this one spot. So they cleared to the stone wall or the property line. The erosion control line was not in there just yet when they were clearing in that spot. It's now in. If you scroll down, there's a couple
Yep.
photos where it is now installed, so you can see the difference between where the limit of work was meant to be versus the stone wall. But because of the size of this project, that does amount to 5,000 square feet. That was cleared. It is outside the buffer zone, but we do also have a stormwater permit in play here. So their wetland scientist, who's also doing their SWIP inspections, reported this. He said the topsoil and subsoil is still in place, so they would like to just rough up that area and seed it. I wanted to put it on you guys' radar though, because obviously it's different to go from woods to just seeding. So I wanted your take on, should we be requiring supplemental plantings of some kind? What you guys' thoughts were on that. Other than this, we haven't had any issues out there. They're still working just on, initial setup
Yeah.
because it's just such a big site.
I go by there frequently, so I'm always kind of looking in and seeing where they're at and so forth. And I'm glad you guys are going out there. And the fact that we do have, when you say you're going out there, you're going out. Who else is going out? So we have basically retained graves, right?
Yeah, we have both Jeff and Art on
Okay.
board to do inspections. We've done one initial one as a big group. Jan and I were out there. The planner was out there.
Yeah.
Art was out there. A bunch of folks from Shrewsbury joined us as well. We did it all in combination, the initial one.
Yeah.
They now have their SWIP inspector on board, so I get regular reports from him. I also have a list of the intervals that Art and Jeff want to be out for, so that when we reach those
Okay.
points in time, I will be tagging them to go out.
Okay. That sounds good. And then I'm just curious. I forget as far as the SWIP goes, the depth of rainfall that you need to go out after a heavy rainfall. Is it like 1 inch or something? I forget what it is.
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay, yeah. Anyways, but if they have a SWIP inspector, so then that would be the only other time that you'd go out is when you have that intensive rainfall and so forth.
Mhm.
Yeah, let's go around the commission. My initial thought on this area is to stabilize it as soon as possible. And since we're just beginning the growing season, seeding it is like the first thing. Um, and then we can chat about other things. So I think that's immediate. We just want to make sure we document all that. But as far as having to do plantings and stuff, let me go around first and kind of get other people's kind of take on that. So, Jonathan.
I mean, so Leah, how long have they been doing site clearing? A month?
Probably not even. I think it was mid-March that they started.
Did they give a reason why they opened up another 5,000 square feet of land there?
I think they're clear, whoever was doing the clearing mistook the limit of work to be the stone wall, because that erosion control line wasn't in that one spot yet when they were over there.
So it's really, it sounds like it's a whoops.
Yeah.
But my thought process is, well, so, and this is not in the buffer zone. We would,
Correct.
if we were to put plantings or request plantings back there, would it be wetland plantings, or it would be like pine trees and, yeah. So, I mean, I frankly think that if you put in seating there, you're now more likely to just cut the grass and then expand that footprint, and they've got another 5,000 square feet of whatever. I don't know if it's beneficial to them to have that space or if it's now a pain in their butt. But frankly, I'd rather see it go back as forest or whatever, 5,000 square feet of trees and shrubs and natural growth, as opposed to just grass that's going to get cut. Can we see what's going to be? So if the limit of
Yeah.
work is that silt fence and silt sock, what's the type of work that's going to go up against that? Is that the edge of the parking lot, like where the silt line is, or is that the roadway, or?
It's gonna be so that's a wetland in between
Yep.
the corner
Yep.
where they cleared, and then the building is kind of the L-ish shape with the Shrewsbury Grafton words on it.
Right.
So it's the wetlands in between.
So this is on the property line side of, so this is basically eroded away the potential buffer that a butter has to the wetland and then to the building itself. So I frankly, if I were that abutter, I wouldn't want to have lost all those pine trees and brush and cover. I'd want it between myself. I'm not that abutter, but I'm thinking that they should place back, they should make it better than what it was before they went in and destroyed and went over the line, if you will. That's my take, is that seating, while we figure out the rest of it, makes sense just to stabilize it, to Sandy's point, because I wouldn't want it to erode away, especially because it's raining now every other day. But I would think that we should seed it and then talk about doing more of replication of what was there, whether it was regular forest or what. That's my take. It was part of the buffer zone. I say buffer zone, not buffer zone. The buffer between the abutter and the property.
Yeah. It's a vegetated buffer.
Yeah, it's a vegetated buffer. I agree. And you took it. You understood my ramblings, Sandy. So, that's my take. Is that seed it? My take would be seed it right now to stabilize it and hopefully get it to start to take with all the rain we're getting and going to get the next month, and then we should talk about my opinion is that we should be replacing what was there in terms of pine trees and vegetated buffer.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was a long-winded thing, but that's.
Thank you. Travis, your take on this.
I guess as long as we control the erosion, but I don't like what Jonathan said. I don't like the idea of just seeding it with a perennial grass mix, because then it's just going to turn into yard. So
Yeah,
I'm indifferent on like having them replanted. I don't know what the buffer distance is. Like if this is changing the buffer, I think that will fill in and
yeah.
be a secondary succession habitat in a year.
And that's where I'm kind of like, and to me, the seed mix should not be grass.
Right.
The seed mix should be
maybe like some annual
Yep.
rye or something to stabilize.
to stabilize it. And then,
Yeah.
And then the other thing, which we can't quite tell from this, is that you have where the yellow highlight is and where the edge of the property is, then you go, you then have that parking lot there. That's the parking lot, right, Leah?
Sorry, say that again. I was reading his report in the background while you were talking.
So when you look at that highlighted area in that
Mhm.
corner of the lot, right to the left of that, plan left or plan west,
Yeah.
that is the parking lot, correct? That
Yeah, I think
rectangle.
this is a bad visual, but yes, I believe I believe some of the parking lot is there. Let me look at another plan.
Right. And then, because my question goes, how much grading is there? And where is that edge of the parking lot versus the erosion control versus the property line? And so what's been cleared is the erosion protection line, which is at the bottom of some slope. So I don't know how far that slope is to the parking lot. And then how far, that's, I can't tell, I don't know, 30 feet, 40, 50 feet is the width of that, you know, distance between the erosion control and the stone wall, which is the property line. So it, to me is but to, Jonathan's comment about it not becoming lawn and understanding where it lies as far as topography goes. Because I also agree with Travis, do some seeding for erosion control, but then maybe do some seeding to provide the opportunity for everything to kind of fill in. I'm just wondering the best way to do that, and I have no idea what the trees are out there. I don't know anything about that, but just to make sure it gets back to be a natural area, a natural buffer, as opposed to grass. I'm definitely on the same page with Jonathan that we don't want it to become lawn. So Amara, any kind of other comments on this or thoughts on this?
Well, I will say that this is like very timely because I just took the erosion control class
Okay.
a couple days ago. So this is kind of fun.
Okay, that's
I mean,
good.
not fun
That's
that this
great.
happened.
Did you do
Definitely
it through
unfortunate.
Did you do it through MACC?
Yeah.
It wasn't there a couple of folks from niche engineering doing that presentation?
Um, I think so.
Yeah, so we do a lot of presentations for MACC.
Okay,
So
nice.
it's not me, but someone else does it.
Oh,
Yeah. So
cool.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it was two young gentlemen, and they did a really
Yes.
great
Yeah.
job.
Yep.
Yeah, those have been really enjoyable. So,
Okay.
yeah, my only comment is that I agree with you all. I think restoring it back to as close to what it was before it was disturbed, I think is probably for the best. And immediate erosion control is probably necessary because it has been raining a lot and it's going to continue to rain a lot. Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
I like the idea of like native plants that are in that area. But I don't know how possible that is.
Yeah. I think we're pretty much all on the same page that we want it to naturalize again. I think it's how do we get there? And is it something where we say you got to go out and put, I don't know, X number of trees out there and they have to be a minimum of this size? Is that going to fill in and all live as opposed to being a little bit more seeded, enhance it, and let it fill in naturally? I don't know. That's where my only kind of I'm not sure on. Leah, did they propose anything for the restoration of this area?
They talked about seeding it. I'm trying to open the report in the background to see if he specified what kind of seed, but I'm having a hard time opening that and the plan set because the plan set is so huge
So
and it
huge,
doesn't want to
yeah.
open.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So I think immediately, I think the response is, you got to stabilize it. You got to seed it, whether it's the annual rye or something, just to make sure you have a coverage of vegetation on there. That's the interim. And then it's like, what are they going to propose? The other question I have is, how does this also impact planning board? Because they have site plan and this was a vegetated buffer area. So, should we check in with the planning board to say, hey, do you guys have a concern? Are you thinking of anything and trying to be on the same page as opposed to having two different departments, two different boards have different approaches. So I'm curious if they have any. I know I don't know if they were out there when you guys looked at this, but do they have any kind of take on the fact that this whole big area was cleared?
This was flagged after our visit, so I
Okay.
can check with the planner tomorrow.
Yeah, just to see, just so that whatever we do, we can do it as one as opposed to not talking. That's all.
One quick question, Sandy and Jan, if you could scan down just a little bit back to the picture. Um, you've got, I don't know if they removed stumps or they just kind of left a bunch of, it looks kind of like a mess. So if we're just going to, if the direction is to just seed it, is it to leave the downed trees and the stuff that was left behind, or are they going to clear that out, like grade it and then seed it to make it so is it truly like it's no longer natural because they've driven a
Right.
D8 through there or whatever they brought through there to knock stuff down and move stuff around. So they've flattened that space. So now that it's flattened and there's ruts and hills and mounds and whatever, and Sandy, this is probably a question more for you or for staff, Leah and Jan, would be if we just seed it, I mean, do they then roll it? Do you have to remove some of the vegetation or the downed, 6-inch trees or whatever that are in there? Just to understand prior to talking about what might go back fully, just to stabilize it. Do they go through and remove that stuff outside of the LOD?
So I would say leaving the down trees and the unevenness of it is actually a positive.
Okay,
And then just, because it's not, you don't want it smooth. Smooth increases velocity.
right.
It's hard to say. It looks kind of flat, but on the next picture down, it looks like there's a up going up a hill. So it's kind of hard. Sometimes, leaving it rough is a good thing. It all depends upon what's contributing to that area and whether you're going to find, water running down a certain gully or something. I don't know. Um, those to me, one part of me just says, they were pretty open. They notified us, um, is to get from them what their restoration is and coordinate that with the planning board and then have it brought in front of us so that we can, um, make some determinations. Erosion might be the first consideration. Boom, that should be done. And then the restoration part of it, um, that's where we get into there's different methods and different ways you can do it. I'm sure, Travis got some ideas on that, but why not leave it to the applicant to say, give us a plan, what you're going to do.
Yeah, that makes sense. Final question I have is the property line the stone wall, or is this on somebody else's property, or is this on the UPS property?
Leah, you based on what you said, the stone wall's a property,
That's what they told me.
which is pretty common. So,
Right. No, that makes sense. I just didn't know. I've seen plenty of sites in New England where the stone walls and where the property line's not on the stone wall anymore.
oh God, absolutely. Yep.
So I just didn't know if this was Mrs. What's her name's property and she would or he would or they would need to have input on.
Oh, that would become a civil issue and less of a regulatory issue.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, especially because it's
didn't
out
know
of the
where
buffer.
Yep. Just didn't know where the
But-
line was. But yeah, it makes sense to me is seed to stabilize and then probably ask the applicant what the final state is.
Right. And then make sure we're on the same page with planning board. Anyone else, Leah, have say on this? I mean, I'm just thinking it's just us and planning board.
Right.
Okay. So we just get coordinated so we don't ask for two different things. Got anything to add, Leah, to kind of this discussion?
No, I'll
Okay.
do those follow-up items.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you for bringing this up. I did look at this and I was like, oh, that's cool. because I go by the site all the time, I have a tendency I want to get out and walk it. That even though as commissioners we have access to it, it's just such a big site and therefore somewhat potentially dangerous to kind of go walking around there by yourself. So I haven't done that yet.
Yeah,
But-
they'll have their trailers set up soon if they don't already at the end of Centec, or Centennial, sorry. But yeah, you need the full PPE and everything. But if you want to come along, we can invite you next time.
Go ahead and invite me. I don't know if I'll be around, but yeah, I have all my own PPE, so that's not a problem. So, but because I just think it might be, and again, for other commissioners, this is going to be somewhat of a unique project for Grafton because of the size of it and the amount of dirt that's going to get moved. I've worked on some really big projects. This has almost more dirt being moved than I've done on a whole college campus, which is pretty amazing to me. Like a new college campus that's 100 acres. So this is the scale of it is pretty unique for our town, I would think. So, but anyways, I'm
Maybe
good.
a site visit, Sandy. I think the last time we did a site visit might have been right along the Millbury Grafton line, not too far from my house, down in front of where Wyman Gordon is there. I think
Yep.
that was the last time we did a site visit, and that was probably 2 or 3 years ago. So
Yeah.
maybe there's a bit to establishing a site visit to get some.
Yeah.
I'd
We have to
love
post it.
I'd love
Yeah.
Yeah.
to do it.
Yeah. So yeah, and that thing. So you need for personal protection equipment, you need to have solid boots. You need to have hard hat, a vest, glasses, eye protection. It depends upon what
I have
activity is
most of
going
those
on.
things.
Yeah, depends upon the activity that's going on out there. The hard hat is to protect you from falling things. You're walking around there, but typically you use all those things whenever you're on a site. That's our standard. As you go on a site, those are the things that you have.
I
So
have a somewhat silly question. Would a helmet suffice?
They'd
Um,
probably give you a loaner hard hat instead.
Okay,
Yeah.
that works.
I have extra hard hats. I'm sure Jonathan has extra hard hats.
Throw red,
Um,
but yeah.
no, mine are white.
That's all right. All I have is a bike helmet. So
Yeah, no, we could. I think there's enough
Find you a
folks here.
loaner. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Cool.
The other side is that they often, at every
Oh.
job site that we have visitor gear. So if there's a visitor to
That
one of our
makes sense.
jobs that doesn't have something, then they can borrow a fluorescent vest, a pair of safety glasses, and a hard hat.
Yeah, and usually their hard hat is some weird color, so everyone knows that you're not one of them.
Not one of the group. Yeah.
Yep.
It's not fancy like the soup. We switched over to all the ones that have the chin straps now,
Yeah.
Sandy.
It's the different kind of hard hat with the It's a little bit
walking.
different. Yeah, I've seen it more and more around the industry.
It
It's
ironically
safer.
looks kind of like a bike helmet.
It does actually.
But it's
Maybe
not.
I'm just ahead of the game.
You're
There you go.
trying
But
to
yeah,
convince a 60-year-old carpenter why he needs to wear that new hard hat and strap the buckle is like, it's like you asked him to convert some crazy, like he can't wrap it around his head. Literally, he can't wrap it around his head. He just wants to put his hat on and that's it. So
And usually something bad has happened when a company switches over.
it's just the industry switching over in general.
Well, right, yeah.
But it's
I saw years ago the first company to do it. It was in response to an incident. So, and it was a huge construction company that did it. So
they gave me
Um,
one, so now I've got a chin strap hard hat. And then I have a spare that's not chin strap, so I could let someone borrow
Yeah.
that.
I have 2 or 3 of them. Whatever. I know you're supposed to get rid of them after 5 years, but that's the way it goes. So, and I'm sure Leah and Jan have their own hard hats.
Sure do, but we don't have the chin strap kind. We were actually just taught that at UPS. They just switched the crew that's out there. So
Yep. it's happening. Eventually, we haven't switched to it yet, just because our folks aren't typically on site all the time, and they're really expensive. Yeah, bottom line. There you go. That's what it looks like.
Nice. I like the little
Eh,
brim.
Yeah, and it is a lot more expensive than the old fashioned hat. So, but yeah, there we go.
Looks very safe.
PPE. Yep.
Yeah, it's a little bit small for my head, but it's almost like a cave diver kind of helmet. It's kind of crazy.
It does look like
Yeah.
a cave diver helmet.
Yeah, but
It's based on being more safe. So, oh, I have all sorts of color vests and stuff. Whatever's been in style, you know. I have the old orange vest. Now I have the lime green or yellow or whatever. I think it's the yellow one. I forget. Yeah.
this one's got all the fluorescent. You probably can't even see it on the camera, but
Yeah.
I've winter ones. Even though I'm in an office, they give us all the branded
Yeah.
stuff, just in case we need to go out.
Yep. Yeah, I have that. And then, not that this is way going down a rabbit hole, is depending upon the markings on your vest is where you can go. So the MBTA has special markings, so you can go on the train tracks. So some of our surveys have to have multiple vests, which is kind of
The
cool.
more you
It's-
know.
Yeah, I don't know. I never knew that. So, all right.
We saw one on the green line. We did the green line extension into Somerville, and yeah, they handed out like 4 different types of vests to people,
Yep.
and people always wear the wrong one and have to switch and have them all.
Yep.
Yeah, lots of fun.
Yep.
Lot of fun.
Yeah, there's different things so that safety people can see it right away. So now that we've had this extensive discussion on PPEs, but I do
We can
think
go a walkthrough.
yeah, I do think a site visit might be like, and again, make it when it's convenient for you and on a time that it's, probably after 3 so that you don't have heavy equipment operating while we do the site visit, those type of things. I don't know when you're going. It doesn't really matter, but just so that it's a little bit, we're not in the midst of, full construction, because there's lots of very large vehicles going around there. So, but
Sure.
oh, good. Anything else?
Nope.
So that means one thing left.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote. Jonathan,
Yes.
Amira,
Yeah.
Travis.
Yes.
I am also a yes. So thank you very much.